What is up, guys? It is Strider coming at you with some more Pokemon content. This is it. This is the biggest match of the regular season by a long shot for either of us. We're both undefeated going into this. He is 4-0. He has not had his bye yet. I am 3-0, and I have taken my bye. This may very well decide just who is the number one seed going into the playoffs. So this is kind of a big game. If you are interested in exactly all the sets I brought, I don't really want to get into it here, but I did post a team builder video, so you can take a look at that. And no spoilers, but this game was a doozy. Very, very much so. So let's just go ahead. I'll put it on slow. I do want to talk about some things more so than even in other games, because this game was, they say football is a game of inches. This game was a game of inches, if Pokemon was measured in inches. But anyways, let's just go ahead and get in. He leads with Keldeo, and I'm leading with Jolteon, and I'm like, this is probably going to force a switch. The only thing that he can really switch into that wants to take this is his Zygarde, and I'm like, even if he switches into his Zygarde, I have Hidden Power Ice, which has a chance to one-hit kill it anyways. He goes into Fortress, and I'm like, okay, Volt Switch is still going to do a ton. Yeah, it does 40. I knew it would do a lot. I didn't actually, I almost wish I stuck with Thunderbolt there, but I obviously didn't. I send in Togekiss, and I'm like, oh, I sent in Togekiss from like 40%. I'm like, I think an Air Slash will kill it 40%. He went up to 47, so I needed a max roll in order to kill him, or a flinch, which is in my favor, and I do just get the max roll, and he is dead. So I'm pretty happy about that. His Fortress is dead right now. I'm like, okay, this is going about as well as it can. He sends in Togekiss, or Keldeo, and I'm like, this is weird. Like, Togekiss is kind of what I have dedicated to beat this thing, and I'm like, well, whatever. I think he goes for a Calm Mind here, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to Air Slash this thing down, and it takes a ton, and I'm like, well, alright. I don't know why he chose to do this. I eat up this Hidden Power. He takes some Life Orb damage, and then I kill it. So I don't know why he brought in Keldeo. That was kind of a mistake. Really no reason to do that. Not going to do anything to me. Like I said, he even just uses Super... He probably used Hidden Power Ice, I'm guessing. So he goes into Gallade here, and I should have went into Arcanine here. But I just sacked this thing off for basically no reason. But I definitely should have gone into... I was worried about him setting up, was the big thing. I was like, the only way he gets out of this is if he Swords Dances. And I felt like I was ahead enough at this point, which I think I was just wrong. Like, I don't think I should have done this. But I think I was ahead enough at this point that I was like, well, I'll just sack this off, then bring in Arcanine and threaten to... Or did I bring in Arcanine here? I think I bring in Arcanine. I should have. I bring in Arcanine, get the thing off, and I think what I do is just go for Will-O-Wisp, which he brings in the Rotom, and I'm like, well, whatever, eat this. He eats it. I'm like, okay, sweet. And I don't really know what I want to switch into here. Togekiss was actually my best switch in, so that thing's dead, because it actually eats up Volt Switch better than you would think. My other good switch in I thought about was Togekiss, or not Togekiss. I thought about bringing in Whimsicott, but ultimately I was like, well, I think he might just Volt Switch, expecting me to go into, like, switch into something that doesn't care about a water type. Like, I think he might think I'm going into Whimsicott, and I'm like, maybe he'll just Volt Switch and get out of here and go into, like, his one thing. So I'm like, okay, I'm going into Jolteon. Jolteon eats this up, heavily threatens it, but he actually doesn't even have the thing I was worried about. He has Toxic, and I'm like, cool story. So he's Toxic Rotom, and I'm like, okay, that's weird, but whatever. It's still fine, but usually you see Will-O-Wisp on him. But I just decided, well, I think I can two-hit KO this thing with Thunderbolt. I actually wouldn't have, but he does go for Hydro Pump here. Misses, which is big. I didn't actually think this mattered that much, but this definitely did matter. And so at this point, I go for another Thunderbolt knowing it'll kill. Gets the job done, and I'm like, okay, feeling pretty good here. And then I take Life Orb damage, and then I take a ton of Toxic damage. And here he makes a very odd play and goes into Zygarde. And I'm like, well, maybe this thing's Scarfed? And I'm like, no, I'm just going to go for this. And I go for the Hidden Power as he goes, not intelligently, mind you, for the sub. And this puts me down to, I think, 1% on my Toxic. And I'm like, okay, thank God. I'm like, hopefully he doesn't have Extreme Speed. And I just go over the Shadow Ball thinking if he switches into something like Gallade, he'll eat that up. And so my Jolteon dies to Toxic. Actually, no, it dies to its own Life Orb. So that's something I need to note. He goes into Talonflame here. As I go into Whimsicott, I honestly think I should have just stayed in. But you'll see what happens. So I just switch into... this was the worst thing he could have done for me, is as he goes for a Swords Dance. He goes for that Swords Dance, and I'm like, well, all right. I'm just going to roar this thing out and pray to God that I live whatever this Gallade's going to do. Now, this is one of the biggest plays that does not work out for me in the game. In fact, if I make this play, if this play were to work, I think I just win the game on the spot. Like just right now, like this game is over at this point. But he actually gets the Drain Punch, and I'm like, whatever, that's fine. Let me hit you with a Wisp, and I miss. So that's an 85% chance. Whatever. Now we're pretty much even in terms of the Hydro Pump miss plus the Will-O-Wisp miss. The Will-O-Wisp makes him way more useful, way less useful. Because I don't know if you, for those of you that do not know, it cuts his attack in half, which obviously is kind of important for him. He just finished me off with a Drain Punch, and this thing doesn't really have much of a use anyways. I guess I could have saved it for an Intimidate and a Sack, but I didn't really want to switch it into. So I go for Whimsicott here. I get the Para. He goes for an Ice Punch. That does a lot, but I'm like, that's fine. All I wanted to do was paralyze it, just kind of make it weaker so my Slowbro can come in. My Slowbro does come in here, and he has a move I did not expect him to have. He goes for the Ice Punch. I eat that up. I'm like, yum, thank you. And I'm like, well, I can probably just Psyshock this thing down, and if I get a little bit lucky with Paras, I should win just pretty easily. I get the Psyshock, did on 71, and he goes for the Leaf Blade, which I expected him to have, what is that thing called? I expected him to have Thunder Punch. Leaf Blade's a little more powerful, and definitely does a lot. I just heal up. Another thing I was worried about was knockoff, of course. He does get paralyzed, and I'm like, sweet, let's just try and... I'm just trying to do as much damage as I can here. I can't really set up combines on this thing. I mean, I kind of can, but it won't do that much. He goes for, I think, Swords Dance here, and now I'm like, well, I'm probably dead to Leaf Blade, and unfortunately this is like my best shot to just kill him, but I will just go for it. What I should have done here, now that I look at this, is I should have switched into Whimsicott, sacked it, then brought in my Garchomp, and Garchomp actually cleans up at that point. But instead, I'm a dummy, and I go for Moonblast, get the kill. I'm like, whatever. So now here, I know I can kind of force his hand okay, this is my plan. So you'll see. So he switches out Talonflame, obviously, and I'm like, okay, if he goes for Swords Dance, I can paralyze it and then encore it next turn, which makes him just keep going for Swords Dances. I switch into my Garchomp, I kill him. So right here, I actually had a 75% chance to just win on the spot. If I landed that Stun Spore, this game is over. He's not dead yet, but basically I encore him into Swords Dancing. And then my Garchomp just kills him. Like, straight up, nothing, just kills him. He goes for the Swords Dance, and I'm like, well, maybe he'll go for it again, thinking this thing cannot hurt me at all, and I can just try to encore him into Swords Dance here. But he does not, and he goes for Brave Bird, and my thing dies. Now, I'm like, well, crap. My Garchomp, I'm running the calcs, and if this is standard Talonflame, like standard offensive Talonflame, he has a 25% chance to knock me out. But I do one shot, like I kill this easily at this point with Outrage. So let's see what happens. He does go for the Brave Bird. I live at 7%. He almost kills himself to recoil, and then the Outrage gets the kill. So, that was a very GG. I made some mistakes, he made some mistakes, but at the end of the day, it was just a very, very, very good battle. Yeah, very good battle. I win by quite literally the skin of my teeth. Could not have been much closer than what it was. So very good game. to DizzyFalcon. Yeah, I do hope you guys enjoyed this game. Yeah, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed the game, and thank you for watching.